served as a special assistant to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, otherwise known as the FBI, focusing on counterterrorism and counterintelligence. He also clerked for one of the Supreme Court justices, Potter Stewart, and is a graduate of Columbia University undergraduate, and then subsequently the Harvard Law School. Now for the fun stuff, he then sort of turned his attention to politics and started helping a variety of Democratic candidates in their different campaigns for president, governor, Senate, and Congress. On the Obama campaign in 2008, he played a very prominent role, and we hope you'll tell us maybe one or two little juicy war stories on that, helping in the fundraising campaign. He also was heavily involved in the post-election, whatever adjective you want to put in there, Gore against Bush, debacle hanging chads, all the litigation that went on in the Florida contest afterwards. He helped in that. But what may surprise you is, despite these incredible qualifications, he's also a TV and movie star, even now as he is the ambassador. This is not a joke. Huh? He's been a contributor to numerous TV and radio programs, including many appearances on his favorite TV network, the Fox network, during the 2008 campaign. He also appeared in several episodes on HBO series, home box office series called K Street, where he played, perhaps not so surprisingly, a Washington attorney. And he's also made other movie and media appearances, including the movie Noise, and as a high school parent in the recent movie called Fame that you might have seen. And finally, and this doesn't really appear on his resume, but it definitely matters to me. We share a very strong affinity as Boston Red Sox fans. If you look at his watch, you'll see that he's a long time. He's part of Red Sox Nation, as am I, following the Red Sox on everything they do in baseball. And I think we also share a commonality in that we've both fallen in love with Belgium, its complexities and wonderful aspects. And he's learning almost every morning, except when he has to visit the dentist, like this morning, learning Dutch and French on alternative mornings, as if he didn't have enough to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to introduce and welcome His Excellency Mr. Howard Gutman, Ambassador of the United States of America to the Kingdom of Belgium.
Scott, thanks so much for that wonderful introduction, and even more so for the tireless service that you give to AmCham. For those of you who know AmCham, Scott is both an intellectual leader, thinking about how to improve Belgium-U.S. relations, how to improve American investment in Belgium, and part of the backbone of AmCham, which is a wonderful organization. So thanks for both the introduction and even more so for your service. I am delighted to be here today. As I speak to groups like this, I begin to realize that it's more like having lunch with a bunch of buddies, because there are really only two kinds of people I meet in Belgium these days. There are either old friends or new friends. As I come to this group, I've seen old friends and now make new friends. And so for me, it's a pleasure. When I agreed to give this speech a couple of weeks or a few months ago, I really had in mind coming to give answers. At the time, I had the sense that the questions were not that hard, that I had a sense of the pulse of certainly my country and the Obama administration, that I had a sense of where Europe was and where Europe was going and where even the developing nations was going. I had a sense of both where we were, where we needed to be, and the best way to get there, and had the sense that I knew at least some of the answers. In the past certainly weeks, I'm a lot less certain that I have the answers, and I'm not totally sure that I even know what the questions are anymore. But the paths clearly have become more blurry. I kind of see the mountains still up there, but the best kind of ascent, the easiest climb, becomes somewhat less defined. So before turning to what I had planned to discuss, which were the sort of truths facing the business community and the long-term truths, I think it might be worthwhile to spend some time on the uncertainty, some time on the confusion, and on the challenges. Because I think in some respect, it is the uncertainty itself that may present the greatest challenge to business. It is hard to know whether and where to invest or divest, whether to grow or contract, and what to expect if you can't figure out quite what the future holds on issues like Europe, the United States, the international community. And truly, for an international businessman in Belgium today, what to expect from Europe, what to expect from the United States, and what to expect from Belgium seemed to me very unsettled, even unsettled compared to 5 months ago when I arrived here, 4 months ago when I thought the answers were somewhat clearer. But the one thing that's remained the absolute critical truth throughout is that this time we have to get it right. And that this time we have to get it right, not just as the United States, not just as Belgium, certainly not just as Flanders or Wallonia, but we've got to get it right together. Because, you know, for most of my life, the tension, the fundamental tension has been between the haves and the have-nots. But truth be told, today, there are very few haves. There are mainly used to have a lot and have a lot less today. So I cannot go to a political gathering. I cannot go to a business group. I cannot go to a church without hearing the dialogue be fundamentally about our failures instead of our successes, fundamentally about the crisis instead of the achievements, about unemployment, about shrinking profits, about growing layoffs. The dialogue itself has changed so much that we clearly have one opportunity to get it right. On the other hand, we have a huge opportunity because the best time to get it right is after it is broken. It is ours now to fix. But it is somewhat mind-boggling that in 2010, years after a technology revolution, years after a financial boom, we still have not gotten it right. And so if you told me that in 1985, that we'd be saying this in 2010, I would have laughed. But here we are in 2010. So this is our shot to get it right. Let's first talk about the confusion, the uncertainty in Europe, the uncertainty in the United States, in Belgium, and therefore the world. For sure, Europe is changing, but I am not sure where it will end up. When I first came and thought about the Lisbon Treaty, I thought that was about process and procedure. But in fact, it's turned out to be far more about personality, far more about people than process. And it turns out, I think it's about the fundamental identity of Europe. There are several possible roads ahead. I can envision a strongly coordinated, united Europe under someone like Herman Van Rompuy, who I admire and like a great deal, who I consider a friend, someone leading with wisdom and judgment rather than with loud words, and that Europe united could serve as an invaluable partner, an invaluable leader at the table of the world, dealing with the most important global problems, whether that's nuclear security in Iran, which I can tell you now will dominate the discussion in the next 6 months, whether it's about climate, which dominated the discussion the last 6 months, whether it's about the world pie, how to make it expand and how to divide it more fairly. Clearly that Europe, the potential for that Europe exists. But there is also the potential for a Europe of several strong and differing personalities, each having some say in the issues, but perhaps not agreeing quite on what that say is, and perhaps not fully satisfied with the resonance that their voice is receiving, with the resonance of their voices. And I think fundamentally that uncertainty caused a great deal of misunderstanding and frustration, for example, at Copenhagen. I saw that firsthand. So many complained to me. Many